It's the night of August 8th, 1837, and the governor of New Mexico is running for his life through the high desert brush. Governor Albino Pérez hoped to find safety in the south, but as he nears the settlement of Santo Domingo Pueblo, he is intercepted by an armed coalition of villagers and indigenous warriors. The mob drags Pérez to the outskirts of the pueblo and executes him. In a final act of contempt, they decapitate the governor and use his head as a ball for a public game. A violence followed the rebels back to the capital. They mounted Pérez's head on a pike and carried it 25 miles north, parading the trophy directly into the center of Santa Fe. The brutality of the act signaled a total breakdown of the colonial order. To understand why the territory descended into such extreme violence, we have to look at the outsider who held the office and the policies that turned his own subjects into his executioners. Albino Pérez arrived in Santa Fe as an appointed outsider from central Mexico. He was a distinguished colonel who flaunted his opulent military career and elite status in a region where most families struggled for basic subsistence. Pérez was the face of a new centralist government that stripped New Mexico of its traditional autonomy. New laws removed the power of local villages to govern themselves and introduced strict property qualifications that effectively ended the voting rights of the poor. This chart shows the impact of the new municipal fees Pérez imposed. In an economy that functioned largely through barter, he demanded $5 a month just to cut timber and 50 cents for a license to hold a community dance. For most families, the cost of their own customs had become a financial impossibility. His administration was further crippled by corruption and failure. Pérez reinstated officials known for fraud and proved unable to provide the military protection necessary to stop escalating raids on frontier villages. By removing the people's political voice while simultaneously threatening their economic survival, Governor Pérez created an environment where the only way to protect one's livelihood was to break the law. The tension reached its limit in 1837 when a long-standing federal tax exemption, the only thing protecting the fragile frontier economy, was set to expire. Panic spread through rumors like the ones shown here. Word reached the northern villages that federal collectors would soon seize 1/3 of every family's crops and livestock. People whispered that the government would soon tax community water and even charge men a fee for sleeping with their own wives. The spark finally ignited in July when a federal official arrested Juan José Esquivel, a popular local mayor. He was thrown into a Santa Cruz jail in heavy irons over a minor administrative dispute. Within days, an angry mob broke Esquivel out of his cell. They quickly organized into a rebel alliance known as the Canton, uniting the disparate northern villages into a single military force. A single act of heavy-handed law enforcement against a local leader had provided the rebellion with the organizational structure it needed to challenge the governor. Governor Pérez marched north to crush the uprising, positioning his coalition of federal troops and Pueblo warriors near the volcanic outcropping of Black Mesa. The battle ended before it began. As the two sides met, the majority of the governor's militia and Pueblo warriors abandoned their posts and merged directly into the rebel lines. This left Pérez with a tiny group of loyalists forced into a desperate retreat south toward Santa Fe, with a massive unified rebel army following close behind. With his own soldiers turned against him, Pérez no longer had a government to return to, only an army of former loyalists now leading the hunt for his life. Following the governor's execution, the rebels seized the capital and filled the power vacuum with a leader who would have been unthinkable just months prior, José María González. González was an illiterate buffalo hunter of Taos Pueblo descent. He had no traditional political standing, yet he was now the first indigenous man to hold the office of governor. His new government, the Junta Popular, was the most ethnically inclusive leadership in the territory's history, placing power in the hands of the indigenous and Hispano poor. For a brief window, the very people the central government tried to tax and silence were the ones making the laws in the capital. The shift was short-lived. Former Governor Manuel Armijo organized the wealthy southern elites of the Rio Abajo to retake control. Armijo's forces were better equipped and more professional than the northern villagers. They pushed north as a unified wave, reclaiming the territory and crushing the Canton resistance. The rebellion ended in blood. Armijo ordered the execution of José María González and the other rebel leaders, reinstating the Central Mexican Authority that the people had fought to remove. The uprising was defeated within months, but it left a blueprint for resistance that would resurface whenever the distant government in Mexico City tried to tighten its grip on the northern frontier.